Well, thank you for joining us today on EC Talk. Today, we're going to talk with author Gary Lindberg about his book called The Vegetable Grows and the Lion Roars. It's a story that invites us to look deeper beneath the surface of our own lives and discover what's quietly shaping who and what we become. Gary, I am so excited about this interview. I can't wait to get started because I just got back from Africa myself. And this is pretty much the premise of the heart of your book is based in Africa. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Suzanne, for taking time to talk with me today about my book, The Vegetable Grows and the Lion Roars, My Peace Corps Service. It's a memoir of my experience as one Peace Corps volunteer in West Coast Africa, and specifically in uh, the Ivory Coast, which is officially called La Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay.
And uh, my experience, even in traveling from all around West Africa and East Africa, including Kenya and Tanzania.
Gary, let's just start with the main message. What is the main heart of the message behind this precious book?
Well, my main message is simply to explain my personal experience as a Peace Corps volunteer and what I went through and my daily life, the people I met, the experiences I had, uh, and what I learned after all that experience.
Gary, the Peace Corps is something that we don't really hear about anymore. I think only what 2 or 3%. I was just having this conversation with someone about how the world needs to have empathy and see with other eyes, and they said we need to bring the Peace Corps back.
I fully agree with that. Well, I think the Peace Corps is still very active, but maybe not so publicized as it used to be.
Before we jump into your book, I'm really interested because it gave you an opportunity to see a lot of different countries. What was the heart of the Peace Corps for you? It must have shaped you to be who you were today.
Oh, I believe so. It made me more understanding about the people and the difficulties that they face in their uh, daily lives to get food, to get housing, to get food, clothing, and so forth. So I fully appreciate what I found in the people. But nevertheless, the people were wonderful, and I had very positive experience. And my experience in school gardens my main project was a lot different than the original project I was invited to, which was the health education project. Some of those volunteers had to wait months before they could actually do their work. And
Wow.
I didn't have that problem. I just walked right in and did my thing, and it was wonderful.
Why did that change happen? Were you expecting one thing and then something else came up?
Well, when I was a senior at Cal, I heard Sergeant Shriver when he visited the Cal campus in Berkeley in the 19 or I guess it was the fall semester, and then he came and I thought about joining the Peace Corps, but I thought probably wasn't really for me. But then he came back in the spring semester and that time I said, well, I'm going to try it anyway and see what happens. Well, I hadn't heard from the Peace Corps when that happened. So once I graduated in June 65, I had to decide what I was going to do because at that time we had the draft and I was
Oh,
high on the list at that point in time. And my older brother was making a career out of the Air Force, and he suggested that anything but the Army would be a smarter idea because they would teach you something. But so I decided to apply for the Air Force, and while I was going to apply for it, part of my application was required me to go to Vandenberg Air Force Base, about 25 miles away from Santa Maria, California, where I grew up. And I interviewed people, or they interviewed me, and I filled out papers and whatever. I didn't know anything about all that, but then I went home after a full day there, and there was a manila envelope. This is after graduation, mind you. I saw a manila envelope on the kitchen table that my mother had put there, and I saw the return address as Peace Corps. So I had an idea what it was, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I can't go to this. This is not really right for me. I can't do this." Well, interestingly enough, my mother walked up and said, "You're not going to do that, are you?" And instantly, I said, "Yes, I'm
Oh
going to
my
do." That's
goodness.
what I when I opened up the envelope after that, I found out it was an invitation to join a health education project in the Ivory Coast. Well, we went to UCLA for 3 months of training, and I learned all kinds of things about health education and how to present it and how to do it and so forth. And then when towards the end of our training at UCLA, we were asked, well, we have a special project called School Gardens that Peace Corps would like to try to do in the Ivory Coast, and we were looking for volunteers. And I said, well, I would do it if they want me to, but really I kind of preferred the health education project. Well, nothing came of that. And then we arrived in Abidjan, the capital of the Ivory Coast, then the capital. And we had a 2 day orientation. And again, they asked if we had any volunteers to participate in the trial school gardens program. The Ivory Coast was very reluctant to have Americans come in and teach them anything about agriculture, including the school gardens, because they had top notch French agricultural engineers, mind you, engineers. And so they thought, well, why do we want these college students coming in? But actually, the work we did was more remedial work than the engineers would even want to do, let alone do. And uh, before the orientation was over, they announced that four of us would be individually assigned to the school gardens project. And what we would do is we would visit various schools. And in my case, I had about 60 schools that I visited on a regular basis, week after week. And I was teaching them their primary school children how to more effectively grow vegetables in a tropical climate. And that's what I did. That was my main project.
That's fascinating. I mean, you're teaching a way of life for them to be able to not just eat, but change generations.
Well, yes, and the purpose of the program was to not only encourage young people to eat more healthy foods like vegetables, but to maybe influence their parents as well. And then the second purpose was to reduce or avoid as much as possible
Ah,
the influx of young people from their villages into the capital city, where they would not be able to find jobs, and then they would lay down on the sidewalk to sleep, and they wouldn't have any food, they wouldn't have any
it's the
jobs,
dominoes. Yeah.
and Nigeria at that time, 54 years ago, was already experiencing that. And so the Ivory Coast was trying to prevent the same result happening there. And that's why the whole program was established.
I have to smile a little bit and go, wow, we have the same problems in all around the world. Children don't want to eat their vegetables. You know, you know, I don't think that they really have the excuse of having winter and ice and cold and everything, but it's nice to see that we are really all just one beautiful body of people, one family, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, do you mind if I move into your faith a little bit?
Not at all.
Tell me about how your faith was shaped through the Peace Corps.
How my faith shaped me in the Peace Corps?
Mhm.
Well, uh, my faith, it teaches me to love God first with all my heart, soul, and mind, and love my neighbor as myself. and who's my neighbor? It's everybody on earth. And so that taught me that I was a guest in the Ivory Coast, and I needed to respect their philosophy and their customs, and I was there to learn what their customs and culture was, not just to impose my thinking on them. It was to learn from them, not
Yeah.
and respect what they believed and how they reacted. So that's what I tried to do.
It's an amazing thing. Having just come back from Africa, they are just the warmest, loving. They have such, in many cases, the places we visited, such little um, in their life. I mean, just one very small room for six people and living on $1 a day, and um, it changes you. You are
Yes, it
not the
does.
person that you would have been, Gary, today had you not joined the Peace Corps and had your eyes opened. I think it probably makes you more empathetic. What did it really make you passionate about as a young man? What did you realize? This really, this is non-negotiable. This is part of my heart now. What was that?
Well, I think that seeing the people trying to struggle and with minimal resources made me very much more empathetic to their situation and made me more in favor of giving them proper assistance and proper aid in any way we could. And I felt that the Peace Corps was one of the best ways because it was a people to people kind of program and not where government tries to throw money around and hope that it helps. That kind of reckless throwing money around is doesn't work very well.
Right. Anywhere you live doesn't work. Uh, Gary, let's talk about the difference because I know you did a lot of traveling for the gardening, but you also had a chance to travel when you had some vacation time. Would you talk about that?
Sure, I was what I had some allotted vacation time, which I used in my first vacation. I went to Ghana for a day or so, and then I took the airplane to Lagos in Nigeria, and then while I was in Nigeria, I traveled to Ibadan, which was one of the largest black cities on earth at that time. And then I took a train up to Kaduna, in the north part of the Nigeria, and then I started seeing the Muslim influence there and their architecture and their clothing and behavior. And then I arrived in Kano, uh, the northern famous mud city of Kano, and I came there 2 weeks after the Hausa, the local tribe, massacred a bunch of Igbos because they were the merchants, and like in West East Africa, the Indians were the merchants there, and very dominating and influential, and the houses didn't really appreciate the Igbos' strong influence, and it kind of was a threat to them. So that was the beginning of the Nigerian Civil War because 2 weeks after I left, there's another massacre going on, and then the whole Civil War erupted, and then you had Biafra and all that all that stuff. And when after I left Kano, I returned down to Kaduna, then took the train to Enugu in the east, which happened to be the capital of Biafra or the capital of that area of Nigeria, and then back to Lagos. And then a bunch of us Peace Corps volunteers actually chartered an airplane to fly us from Lagos to Nairobi, Kenya. And there, when I got out of the airport in Nairobi, I didn't know what I was going to do. There were several of my fellow Peace Corps volunteers from the Ivory Coast who wanted to climb uh, Mount Kilimanjaro. And I really didn't think that was what I wanted to spend my time doing. I wanted to see the animals. I wanted to visit the games, the game reserves. So um, that's kind of where I was. And then it happened that four girls came up to me and said, "We want you to be part of our group." And I said, "Well, okay." But then I was curious why. And they said, "Well, you know a lot about cars and we don't know anything. So it would be a good idea to have somebody who knows what's going on with the car in case there's a problem." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about cars." And they didn't believe me.
They assume because
And
you're a man,
yeah,
right?
because that's exactly what they said.
Like
"Well, you're a
assuming I know
man,
how
so
to cook. It's
you
a big
know about it."
mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, so so they figured that they couldn't go wrong. Well, that was their mistake, as I'll tell you later. Uh, they uh, they wanted to travel around the game reserves, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So we we rented a Ford Zephyr car and proceeded to travel around Nairobi National Park and saw a bunch of animals. I We stopped at a central location where people could get out of the car and everything. And there was an incident there that uh, this woman was apparently driving a Volkswagen Bug, and she had a baby with her. And the baby was, I guess, in the front seat beside her. And she got out and left her door. She left the door open for the baby on the baby's side, and there were some baboons running around. And this baboon wanted to investigate or do something, I don't know, with the baby. And so the mother walked up, ran up to the baboon, grabbed it by the scruff of the neck, back of the neck, and its rear, and picked it up and threw it as far as she could, which wasn't very far. Then, because the baboon was furious and started chasing her, she jumped into the car and closed the door just before the baboon could get her. And that was one of the little experiences I had. And then
That's scary.
and yeah, it was. I thought, and the baboons would climb all over your car and take a ride if you started driving away. But so anyway, we went out from there. We went to Amboseli National Park and visited all the animals there and saw lions and different antelope and wildebeest and so forth. And then we went to Serengeti, the famous Serengeti National Park, and we saw lions, we saw cheetahs, we saw leopards in the trees. Uh, so we were happy we were able to see some of these animals because they weren't really that frequent to be able to see. And so then this one girl, excuse me, and had read something about the Leakey family discovering the oldest remains of man in Olduvai Gorge. Well, I had no map. I didn't have, and GPS wasn't invented by then. So we didn't know how to get to Olduvai Gorge. Nobody in our the girls or I knew anything about that. Well, we just started driving away from Serengeti and on this main road, which happened to be a dirt road that was well graded but not paved. And then as we're driving along about 10 miles away, maybe, I don't know, we saw this 8 by 10 sign. It said Olduvai Gorge and an arrow pointed to the left. Well, we didn't we didn't know any better. We didn't know if that's the main way to go. We didn't know if there's another way to get there. We didn't have any map because I didn't anticipate, and nobody anticipated that's where we were going to go. So we were lost in terms of how to get there. So we drive, turn off the main road. We're driving on this windy road, and it eventually gets into some hills, and the car overheats. Well, I already told them that I don't know anything about cars. So here I am, the expert on cars, raise the hood, and I open up the radiator. Guess what? All the water splashed all over the place. So if we had water in the radiator before, I don't know if we had any left after I opened it up. Well, then we're stuck. You can't drive the car without water.
Right.
And what do we do? Well, in that case, we uh, we decided we had these Coke bottles, 6-ounce Coke bottles. You know how they're shaped,
Hmm.
and that's what we're going to use to carry water with. We had a dozen, half a dozen of them, and between this other girl and I, we grabbed these bottles and we start walking off. We just take any direction. We just turned left, started walking. We don't know where we're going, where we're going to end up. And this is after looking at lions and wild dogs and hyenas and
You know what's
other.
out there. Yeah.
So we don't know if they're around next to the next bush over, or where they are. And so anyway, we walk a couple of miles, and then we finally see a sign that said Olduvai Gorge 5 miles. Well, uh, I thought that, if we started walking another 5 miles, we're already lost. We don't even know then if we can find our way back to the car. We're
Right.
certainly never going to get uh, finding any car if we walk another 5 miles. So we turned around and walked back to the car. And as it turned out, there were some herdsmen that were apparently a couple of herdsmen who were walking their cattle around about the nearby where the car was. And so one of the girls had this English Swahili dictionary. And, you know, in the Ivory Coast, I'm speaking French all the time because that's the way I had to instruct. But I don't know how to pronounce any words in Swahili. And none of the girls knew how to speak Swahili. So even with the English Swahili dictionary, we don't know if we're pronouncing it right. Right? We say, uh, what's the word? Lakwa, lakwa. We don't know how to say it. Do we put the emphasis on the first syllable, the last syllable, the middle syllable? Who knows? And so the guy's just standing there looking at us, and we keep repeating the word. And and finally, he says something about some money. He wants some money, and so he says, I don't know, I don't remember the exact word, but he said, money lakwa. And then I said, no, lakwa money. So I'm trying to tell him, you don't get money until you give us the water.
Right.
So I guess he finally figured that out. So he
Well,
starts walking.
the good news is you're sitting here today, so we know that the story ended well.
Yes, yes, that's right.
But
That's
that had to
about
be
that.
scary.
Oh, it was scary because now it's getting darker. Now it's getting closer to when, if the animals weren't out in the midday, now's the time they're got to get out. They're
Right.
looking for food. So we don't want to be lunch or dinner. But anyway, this guy starts walking across the plains. He didn't say, follow me. He didn't say anything. So we grab our bottles, and this other girl and I, and we start charging after him. She has to almost run to keep up with him because he's walking fast. And I walked pretty fast, but I was hurrying too. Well, we walked a couple of miles, 2, 3 miles. I don't know how long it was. And finally he stops in the middle of nowhere. And we don't know why he stopped. So finally we walk up to him, and we see this mud puddle in the ground. Well, you dip these Coke bottles, these shaped Coke bottles, into the water. We got as much water as we could, and whatever mud came with it. So we
Wow.
filled up these bottles. We walked back to the car. We pay him the money that apparently pleased him, and then we pour the water and the mud into the radiator. And I, so then I don't know if we poured a quarter of the of of the radiator filled. I don't know how much we filled in there, but we did the best we could. So then we start up the car and we start driving back. Now it's dark. Excuse me. And so we get up to the about a 5 miles. So we're still about 5 miles away from the main road. And the car starts overheating. And I said, "No, I'm not stopping. I'm going. Sorry, car. This is the way it's going to be." So we drive up to the main road, turn left, and start driving. Off to the right, we see a corral. Excuse me. And this corral is around these cattle and herdsmen. And so we pull up to the corral on the left side. And then in our great Swahili, we say Lakwa. So they motioned for us to go around the other side. So we walk 180 degrees around the other side. They have a section that they could lift up that opened it up. So we say Lakwa. We don't know if they understand. We got the impression they were inviting us for dinner, which we read that they'd like to have a lot of blood, which wasn't exciting to us. So we said, no, thank you. We need the water.
Yeah.
So they gave us the water. It was all clear, wonderful water. And they allowed us to fill up the radiator with even some extra water as a precaution. So we filled up the radiator, thanked them, and drove away towards Ngorongoro Crater, which was another site we wanted to see, but we ran out of time with our fooling around. And so that's how we got away.
Wow, Gary, that is quite a story. We have got to start bringing this interview to a close here, but what an exciting book. You've given us just a taste of what to expect. I want to give you the final word as to what message you want to leave with a reader when they get this book, when they order it and they read it. What message do you want to leave with them?
Well, I want them to understand how wonderful the people are in Africa. And I had visited and met and talked to many different tribes and different peoples in different countries, and they want the same things that we want: the
Yeah.
food, clothing, uh, housing, and they want recreation. They want just a full life like everybody here wants. And they were wonderful. And I thought uh, that that they have done a lot with the little that they have. And I was amazed how little they do have, but they were still very positive about their lives.
Gary, I love the way you said that, and what a beautiful note to end on. They do a lot with a little, and they've done so much with having just a little, and they're still so positive. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for just whetting our appetite with this. I can't wait to dive in. We've got the book, we've got the screen. I hope that you're able to go to that and maybe pick up a copy. I think it'd be great to be able to share with grandchildren and children and be able to share that we have a lot more in common with people around the world than we don't. So again, it is The Vegetable Grows and the Lion Roars. My Peace Corps Service by Gary R. Lindberg. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you have a great day, Gary. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, Susanna. Thank you for the time you've taken to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
It was a joy.